we also have one Elizabeth Maxwell. And last and least, he's great, obviously, Bill Rogers.
Oh my God, Pikachu!
The biggest Pikachu I've ever seen.
Hey buddy, you're in the wrong region.
Listen, I hope no one minds if I ask this, but do you think we can kick off this panel by having Pikachu dance right here? Dance, Pikalution. Who needs coffee, eh? No, I wasn't offering coffee.
Take that, internet memes. People do it. You've all seen the deflating Pikachu video, I'm sure.
I love you.
It's like I feel awake now.
So dude, that's what you gotta do. Next time when you come in the Pikachu costume, bring like 3 people in black outfits and start to dance in the hallway and start to droop.
Yeah,
Walk you off.
find a Men in Black cosplay group and just tag along with them all day. Now, some of you have seen me moderate panels before, so you know that I always start with the hard-hitting questions. I don't let it up for a minute. You guys already know this because I've already moderated a panel with you guys. I kick things off with a big, deep, epoch-making question. So guys, how was breakfast?
Non-existent. Didn't have any. I woke up and I was like, I gotta go to do a panel. And I have coffee. This is my breakfast right now for serious. But I have a break after this, so.
Those Starbucks lines are vicious. They're so long.
Yeah, they keep going. I think there's like an event in town or something that's like, everyone's in town for...
People are dressed up and stuff too, I don't really understand.
That's weird, I don't get it personally. I said that like I haven't gone to Doctor Who conventions dressed as Vincent Van Gogh.
Did you have breakfast this morning?
This is a smart man. This is a smart man. I did a panel, I moderated a panel at WhedonCon in Los Angeles a few months ago with a bunch of actors who played villains in various, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and so on. And they actually, like, it was a breakfast event, so there was like a fruit selection and coffee and orange juice. And basically, I think we should have that.
Me too.
Yeah.
See, I don't think I'd want to do a VIP breakfast event. Because, pardon me.
Because of exactly what's
You're
happening
doing one right now.
Because I'm rude and I talk with my mouth full. But more importantly, it would be like at like 8 in the morning and the fans would be like, it's Bill! I'm like, get the fuck out of here! I need coffee! I apologize for the obscenities. I know this is an early panel. We should have saved that for the midnight.
This is why we have a tortured relationship.
Never let fans see you before you've had breakfast and coffee. Or breakfast or coffee or combinations thereof. So, let's just kick things, because there's a lot of you. If you guys have any questions for our wonderful, wonderful guests, please form an orderly line in the middle. Maz is that's Maz. Maz is great, she's a Mazzy.
Hello. So, I just want to go over a couple of quick things with the questions. Everybody gets one question. We want to make sure everybody who has a question is heard. Keep things short, sweet, and show these lovely people how much you love them in a very short, sweet, and concise manner. Can we all handle that? Awesome.
Alright, cool. So let's go ahead and form a nice orderly line.
Yeah, you guys want to line up to right here? So we have the line going that way, and then you guys come to the mic, ask your question, and then go ahead and exit stage left.
Okay.
Well, I think because we're behind the speakers, this is what I'm literally hearing. You. Crazy. So we may ask you to repeat your question to us, like, off the mic, because yesterday we had trouble understanding people too. Hi, Bill.
Please don't fall off the stage.
Hi, Bill.
Please don't fall off the stage. Our insurance doesn't cover damage to voice actors. Alright, let's kick things off with our first question. Walk on up to that mic. There we go. Good morning. How are you doing today?
Very good.
Was that your question? Oh, well, thank you. Next question. Let's get the short guy over here.
There's a tough panel.
So, Director Bill, we're doing Breath of the Wild, playing with the voice actor beforehand, namely as Brock on Pokemon.
Indeed.
And you were part of one of the biggest cultural programs of all time. Rice Balls.
No!
Here we go again. Two main questions for me. The first one, would you have mentioned Rice Balls? Did I see animation for it, or did you not see animation until blind when you saw it later and realized, oh god, I did that?
Actually, this is where the audience turns on me. I joined Pokemon in 2006, so I'm not the original Brock. Oh, everybody walks out.
I've been cheated and lied to! Come back just to spite you!
I just wanted to be noted that Patricia got out her Wiimote and started doing this.
No, she was reeling him in.
She was Zelda fishing.
Actually,
You do that with a bow.
You would be more like this.
Yes! Shock arrow!
Make me go crossbow training on your ass. Okay, so the answer to the thing is that I joined the show in 2006, and at the time, I was in the very last special that aired on the kids WB, CW, whatever it was called at the time. But then we moved to Cartoon Network, and the whole thing was that originally when the show aired years ago on WB, there were what's known as standards and practices that make sure that there are stringent guidelines not only for cartoon violence and situations and whatnot, but also cultural stuff. So they were like, kids aren't going to know what rice balls are, we'll call them jelly donuts. Because that works. And all it did was cause a huge backlash. I will say when I joined the show, rice balls and jelly donuts wouldn't have been an issue on Cartoon Network because they'd been like, yeah, the kids are eating whatever the kids are eating. But at that point in Japan, the animators were like, now they eat sandwiches. All the time sandwiches, occasionally salads, but most of the time sandwiches. So it's, hey everybody, it's time for food. Look, Brock made sandwiches again. The best chef in the Pokemon universe, and we're eating sandwiches again. Okay, sandwiches. So yeah.
We're talking about Pokemon.
Yeah, honestly, I saw your description. It's like he's a voice actor. You voiced Brock and Pokemon. I thought, oh, you went all the way back to '99. It's like, no.
Sorry, 2006. Although I will say, in my defense, I've been working on the show for 12 years, so longer than the original cast. Just saying. It's time to move on, people. Thank you, sir.
Come on down, Sharky! Yeah!
Is it weird that I want to take a picture of my head in your mouth?
Can you guys make this happen?
Autographs and things in Hall C, you have that special moment to take that awesome picture, to give them a high five, give them a handshake. When they're doing their autographs, you guys have a lot of opportunity for that. So, remember these things.
Okay, so my question is probably the deepest question we're ever going to answer. You're going to have to think long and hard about this question.
The deepest question we're going to get is from a talking shark. Okay.
It's funny!
So, what is your favorite type of shark? answer means that you live.
My favorite type of shark is the one that I don't see when I am in the water. Oh, sorry, am I supposed to say you?
No, this is a thinking gesture. So you live.
My favorite type of shark is the one that I do see in the water so that I don't get in the water. Otherwise, it's surprise! I just want to hug you!
My favorite type of shark is in the smoker.
My favorite shark is the one that goes up in the hurricane because it's Sharknado.
Sharknado 5, the best.
Yeah, when I'm not watching it because I don't watch Sharknado. But anyway.
Isn't there like a hobgoblin? Like a goblin shark or something? I saw a picture of that recently for the first time, and man, that thing is hideously beautiful.
Can't look away.
I feel like we should have said Sidon.
Yeah!
You are wonderful people, thank you.
Dab it, Sharky.
The shark just dabbed.
Sharky.
Okay, guys, the shark dabbed.
Hi.
My question is, what was the hardest character for you guys to voice act?
Like ever?
Like ever?
Oh, wow.
The ones I haven't done. No, I'm just kidding. I have to think about that for a second.
I'll go first.
The ones that pay millions.
While you gals think. Doing Pokemon for years, because outside of Brock, I'm the voice of over 50 Pokemon in the show. I had one of the directors that worked on Pokemon was like, hey, so you do all the monster voices and stuff. So there's a game out on mobile called Dungeon Hunter. And I'm in Dungeon Hunter 4 and 5. But when I went in for Dungeon Hunter, it was this nice Canadian group called Game Law. They were really sweet.
Oh, I know them. I've done some.
Patricia's from Canada, so.
Canada and the United States, but yeah,
Hey!
Game Loft is a Montreal.
Yes!
Trying to win some Canadian brownie points. But they were really sweet, and they were like, oh wow, we got a Pokemon guy in here, and they were like, we want you to be monsters and stuff in our thing, but not in the, you know, or Rogok, or, you know, any of those kind of things. It was more like a type of monster. So, I went into the booth, and they were like, so we need, like, you know, this kind of insect thing, and I was like, they were like, that sounds great, and we did that for a while, and then we needed, like,
Tissue?
Or a wrench.
and then they wanted, like, you know, goblins, like, you know, different things, and it was great, and we did that for a while, and then they were like, all right, cool, so let's get, the next one is an even bigger one, so we need it more intense, and I was like, what now? And we went through this for 2 hours, and I liken it to thinking you're really cool and swimming out in the ocean and going, I'm gonna do this, man, I'm gonna swim. And about an hour, you go, oh, I'm really tired. Oh crap, now I'm an hour away from shore. I've gotta get back. And you just start to bob your way back. And like, Jesus, don't let me drown. I gotta get back. I gotta make it home alive. And that was the way the session was, because towards the second hour of the session, I was like, and they were like, good, keep going. And I'm like, I'm like, that sounds amazing. And my director is just like, I gotta make it through this. And so after that, I realized that you have to be really careful when you say that you can do certain things, because it will come back to bite you on the ass. Oh yes, and recovery for several days.
Kind of similarly, have you guys, any of you played XCOM 2?
Yes.
So you know how you can like put together a team of soldiers? Back at the beginning of my career, I think it was the first union job I ever did, I was one of those female soldiers that you can have on your team. Like female soldier number 7 or something, I don't remember. And kind of like that, they basically have to voice like any situation that you can come into in the game. So we're running along, things are going fine, and then we get to the point where they're like, okay, now we're gonna do your death screams. And I was like, okay, cool. And they're like, okay, we need a death scream as though you were being consumed alive by acid. And it's like, okay. And so I do the scream, they're like, that was great. I'm like, thank you. And they're like, okay, now we need a scream as though you're being slowly crushed to death by a giant boulder. And it's like, it went on like this for 2 hours where it was like, okay, now we need a scream like you're on fire. Okay, now we need a scream like you're being eaten feet first by a giant monster. And it's, and yeah, 2 hours of that stuff, and it's like, you're like, I can't talk anymore. Also doing, I do a lot of voices on Smite, and I did a character called the Morrigan that has a Gaelic accent, and trying to figure out how to like make fight noises and death noises in a Gaelic accent was really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I guess when it comes to the hardest voices to maintain, it does tend to be about endurance and sort of keeping something technically for a long period of time when you're expected to go and scream and shout. I've definitely, I've done some sessions before where there was a lot of death scenes in a row where you're like, you have to do over and over. And I've given myself a neck spasm mid-section, just after doing an hour of it, I was like, duh, duh, doing the movements, and then I was like, and my neck is spasmed. So stuff like that can happen, and there's very little lead up to you knowing that that's going to happen, and then you just kind of have to suffer through it, and then lay on your back for a week, but but I'd say something like that would be one of my less successful ventures into combat recording. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You mean a blue shirt? You have a blue shirt?
Blue shirt.
Anybody doesn't know, that's the blue shirt that Daniel Radcliffe wears in Harry Potter years 3 through 5. So.
Oh,
Keep going.
And this dude's just like, man, it's just a blue shirt. Get over yourself. Take it easy, Potter Boo. Come on.
hey, how you doing?
So my question is for Patricia, and it's actually more of a request. When I was playing Breath of the Wild, and the blood moon was rising every single time, there was a song that would go off on the back of the marble that I call my brain, and that is Bad Moon Rising by Freedom's Clearwater Revival. Do you know the song?
I certainly do.
Could you sing in Zelda's voice? Don't go around tonight, just take it.
Okay, so here's the thing. Before everybody gets, so I don't do any impressions. This is something that I'm so sorry, guys, but it is because you guys are all recording. It goes online, so we've had to make a general rule: no impressions at all in the character voices for this particular one, because we want to respect Nintendo's creative property. So for that, I can't. I wish there was something else I could do that was just as exciting, like a dance party or something.
Pikachu!
Okay, let's get the shark up here. Come on. All right, I say everybody gets up and claps, and we're gonna do a little karaoke.
Oh God.
Come on, guys. Come on.
Karaoke?
I'm so sorry that I told you that Blood Moon Rises once again so many times. I know. I just have to say that when the eclipse happened, a bunch of people messaged me and they were like, "You gotta tell everybody to be careful." It's just
Well, yeah, we got to be careful with recording that stuff. There's, some stringent rules on that because it starts off where it's just like, say a line from the show, and then it's, call my friend and tell them that I love them, and then it's, hey, so I need you to call somebody and tell them that the king's gonna break their legs if they don't get me. It's like, yeah, I'm sorry, we've gone too far.
Alright, this is more of a question. I was just like, how all you got into the voice acting?
How did everyone get into the voice acting?
How did we get in? I'll take that one first. So I've done voice acting for about 11 years now, and I started it at university along with my theater degree. So it was actually through courses in my undergrad program that I discovered you could actually do this for a living. And it was there I made my first demos. I latched onto it pretty quickly too. It wasn't something that everybody latched onto, but there were a few of us that were like, this is a really special thing to do. And I've been pursuing it ever since, working up, starting with little indie demos, submitting my stuff, and then starting with little radio ads, little indie games, and then, sort of working up from there. But yeah.
I have been pursuing acting, like theater and film and TV for many, many years.
Congratulations, you've made it.
So I'm really big into writing, writing down my goals and stuff. Like I really believe in being vocal about it, and it helps manifest them and stuff. And I found an old list that I wrote years ago when I was very first starting to pursue voice acting. And I said I will know that I am successful when I go to a convention and somebody is cosplaying as a character that I voiced. And then I saw a Riju cosplayer at Colossal Con and I started crying. About 5 years ago, I moved from LA to Austin and was kind of thinking, I'm moving into a smaller market for film and TV. I kind of need to find a way to get more work. And I had a bunch of friends that worked in the video game industry, and they basically were like, well, you have a good voice and you play video games, you watch anime, why don't you go into voice acting? And I was like, why don't I go into voice acting? And I made a demo reel and here I am!
Nice.
We're all the better for it.
And crazy story, one of my very first jobs was Attack on Titan.
Nice.
As a mirror. Yeah, first show I ever worked on with Funimation.
Pretty good.
I did not understand how lucky I was at the time.
That's awesome.
Oh, me, okay. Well, so yeah, I'm originally from New York, and when I started off, I was doing theater. But back in 2001, a company called Right Stuff International was just getting into dubbing anime, because back in the older days, it was, just they would subtitle stuff and release it, and then they were like, hey, there's a market for this. And so when they were doing that, they were looking for actors, and in LA, you have Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network and Disney, all these big studios. So when they were dubbing anime, they were like, well, let's just bring in animation people. But in New York, there really wasn't much of an animation market, so it was like they were bringing in stage actors. So I got to go in and do some work. The first thing I did was a show called Assemble Insert, which was just like 2 half-hour OVAs. And I just was like a bunch of little background characters in it, because the director liked me and he wanted to kind of test the waters with me. He was like, okay, cool. And then he started giving me auditions for other things, and I ended up in Boogie Pop Phantom and Karikano and a lot of shows that, I don't know, 15 years later, a lot of you may not remember. But they were awesome at the time, and they're still good shows, but they're harder to find. But from there, and then obviously in 2006, ended up in Pokemon, and the whole thing just kind of steamrolled. And then about 3 years ago, I made inroads to move to LA, and now I'm doing things like Zelda and Street Fighter and all sorts of other cool stuff, so awesome. Yay!
Thank you very much. Oh no.
Come forward.
The photographer, do you have a question? No, I just want to take your picture. Okay, we're good with that too.
Hello?
Greetings. I have a question for all of you. Out of all the characters you voiced, which one would win in a grand battle royale? Also, Patricia, I
She took a picture of the goblin shark, 2 of the shark, and unfortunately, you have been eaten.
What? I've been eaten?
By the shark.
Well, then I'm sorry, I can't answer your question.
You're burnt.
I'm sorry, you were saying, like, if we look at the body of characters we've voiced, who would win in a fight?
Yes, if all your characters that you have voiced, with all their abilities, went into a grand battle royale, which one would come out on top, in your opinion?
Well, okay, so for me, basically, Urian would come in and just basically crack King Rome in half. And then probably punch Brock into the ground. But then eventually, I guess maybe he would die because 50 plus Pokemon would just like jump on top of him. Oh God, make it stop! And that would be the end of that. So, Pokemon victorious? Oh, it would be a team effort because that's the whole point about Pokemon is you work as a team. I have a dream, we gotta be a team. I don't know, that's not one of the lyrics. Get on that, we gotta make that the lyric for the next season. Okay, I got a dream, we gotta be a team. Okay, I'm gonna write that down. All right, go on.
I would love to see Bishamon from Noragami fight Urbosa. It's like the god of war against the Gerudo champion. I don't know who would win. I want to say Urbosa, but that's really because I have a crush on Urbosa, and that's probably who I would be rooting for.
Future ex-wife.
I know. Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's kind of hard to like top a giant, 3-foot story mechanical war beast camel. I mean,
Just curious, because I'm sorry I haven't really, which character are you in Attack on Titan? You're not one of the Titans, right? Okay.
spoiler.
Because that would be the victory, wouldn't it? You just have like giant Titan Elizabeth. You can just eat anything. You're the Titan that walks like this, right?
I'm the dancing Titan.
Ah, nice.
What about female soldier number 7 from XCOM 2? Didn't she get a look at?
No, obviously she dies. many times.
So that's okay. So I feel like, because I have a lot of badass females that would fight against each other, and I don't really want them to. So I think what would happen is like Ash from Rainbow Six, she would like clear the building, and then the Night Ward would come in and like try to hit Zelda, who's like praying in the corner. And then two assassins,
trying to work her iPad,
and Hope Jensen would come in, and then there would be this epic battle, and Zelda would just be like. And she'd win.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Hello.
Hi.
My question's for all 3 of you. What's your best memory of working on Breath of the Wild?
What's your favorite memory from working on the game?
I like playing it. But that's all I have, I wasn't in it.
What was your favorite moment?
I have so many, and I feel like that's that question also extends. Like, I feel like the memories are still making themselves as this game has already been released and traveling. I feel like some of the best memories of my life are happening this year, just going to conventions and meeting people. Thank you guys so much. I really like Gorons. So as far as like not going into the actual memories that we've acted in, I would say like just hanging out and like making Gorons like get surprised. I was coming back from Amsterdam with my partner, and we were on the plane playing Breath of the Wild, and we were like just playing with the Gorons and like just like laughing so hard. We had no sleep in us. We were like like laughing at the Gorons, and that is a really fun memory. So that's what I would say right now.
One of my favorites was recording the scene where Zelda is sleeping on Urbosa's lap. Yes. I love that scene so much, and it was particularly funny because Jamie, the director, was like, okay, you know, Urbosa is, you know, kind of like a mother figure to Zelda, and I really need that like tenderness and maternal care to come through. And I was like, oh gosh, like, I'm not a mom, like, where do I pull this from? Okay, and I was like, Jamie, is it okay if I imagine that Zelda is my cat Samson? So, when you listen to and watch that scene, I'm really talking to my cat.
Whatever it takes.
Also, can I say one more? Because I find it really funny. Do you mind?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so, in the audition process, Nintendo was open to some of the characters, in addition to Zelda, potentially having accents. And so, when I was going to audition for Urbosa, who I did not know was Urbosa, but for some reason, I really don't remember why I thought this would be appropriate, but I came up with an accent for her. And I get to the audition, and they were like, kind of like, you know what, never mind, you know, we've decided we're going neutral for this character. So I just auditioned with you know, neutral voice. But then when I booked the role, and I got to the studio, I was like, Jamie, can I please do the accent I was thinking of for Urbosa for you? And he was like, okay, sure. And I was like, I was thinking of doing something like this. Strapped across your back, it just drives her crazy. And like Jamie and everybody at Nintendo was just like, guess it's a good thing you didn't do that at the audition or you wouldn't have gotten the role. So yeah, that was fun.
I would say that the greatest moment in the process of it was we were talking about how many people were at the panel yesterday? Are there, okay, there's only a handful of people. So I'm sorry, I'm going to reiterate some stuff from yesterday. You can just take a nap or something. But for me, it was, when we auditioned, we didn't know what it was going to be. And when we walked in on the day, because I figured it was going to be an RPG, but I didn't know what RPG, the RPG. And when I walked in and they were like, Jamie basically was like, okay buddy, you know, you're the king of Hyrule in the new Legend of Zelda game. And I was just like, what? I was like, yeah, so go get in the booth. And it was just, okay. So yeah, it's like, so when you're in recording in the booth and you know, you have the director and engineer and sometimes producers, because we did have two guys from Nintendo there, so there's 4 people on the other side of the glass. The recording process, when you have the headphones on, they, you know, you can hear what you're doing and they can talk to you, but they have what's known as a talkback button that they can turn off so that there's no noise on the other side of it. So they can talk amongst themselves and you don't hear like what their lunch order is or what they're saying horribly about you. But don't get in your head about it. It's okay, really, they love you, I promise. But on the other end, for us, there is no turn off button. So I couldn't exactly go into the booth and be like, I just need a minute in the booth. Okay, I'm ready. But yeah, that was what I was feeling. But yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Just a quick heads up, we have capped the line at that wonderful Link cosplayer at the end, so if you had a question you were hoping to ask it, unfortunately won't happen in this session if you're not already in the line. But there is another Zelda Q&A panel in this room tomorrow at I think 1:30. So if you didn't get to ask your question today, you will have another opportunity tomorrow, and we love you.
You also have plenty of time to go to an autograph session with these lovely folks. If you do have a question, you can ask it there. Everybody gets a few precious moments with your guest with a one-on-one time at the autograph session. So that is also, feel free to line up for that. Quick, little bit of info. In the middle Awesome, next question.
Well, let's roll on.
Zelda, hello.
Hi.
So my question is, in the game you go around collecting Link's memories, and I just wanted to know what was your guys' favorite memory from Link's memories?
So, because there are a lot of people who still haven't played this yet, and no spoilers ever, but definitely I like frogs.
Of course, the frog memory.
So, full disclosure, I have not gotten very far into the game myself yet. As I mentioned at the panel yesterday, I have learned through playing this game that my boyfriend and I do not share video games well. And the Switch is technically his, so I lose. And yeah, I played a couple hours in, and I have been so captivated with chopping down trees and roasting apples that I have not actually gotten to a part of the game where there is voice acting apart from, you know, the old man.
Here, have an apple.
Nobody knows what that means. Yeah, so I'm sorry, I can't exactly answer that question, but...
The only memory that I'm in the memories, because I'm the tutorial at the beginning. Sorry about the glider. I'm just saying.
You better be.
Seriously, yesterday was just an endless line of people going, you know, I really hate you. Because I would do everything you'd ask, and then you'd be like, well, I have one more thing for you to do before I do your glider. And like, it's not, I'm sorry. But you're a better warrior for it. But my one memory is unfortunately a beautiful scene, but a sad one, because it's me just basically tearing into Zelda. So,
Yeah, that was sad.
my only memories are sad ones. As Link and Zelda think back to the past, they think, man, King of Hyrule is really a mean man.
Yeah, we're both a bit edgy, aren't we? The two of us got some edge.
Strange relationship.
Beautiful cosplay, by the way.
Yes.
Oh my God.
He's got his own theme song.
Nice.
Where's that coming from? All right.
Thomas Buck.
Make this quick, because I'm going to try to some this now.
Anyways, this question is directed to Patricia. I was wondering, what went through your mind the moment you realized you were the first person to be ever casted for Princess Zelda herself?
Hold on, the CDI games?
I was like, excuse me?
Yeah, because as we all know, CDI King is best king. All right, let's move on.
That is a very easily offended Shaw.
You had your question.
So, some people know this, others, we were talking about this in the panel yesterday. We didn't know what the show was until, or what the game was until right before recording. So we'd gone through the whole audition process, a whole in-studio callback process with a lot of direction, approvals, and then we get into studio, and then they tell you, by the way, this is actually the character you're playing.
So you were surprised?
I like to say, because I'm like, I almost peed my pants. It was like an adrenaline rush that you can, like, a kind of like, what? And then you're like, did I just hear that? And then your body melts away, and then you're like floating for a little while. And then an hour later you come back and you're like, where am I? No, it was, I was astounded, and I still am astounded, frankly.
You realize you're immortalized by this stuff now, right?
Too bad that doesn't extend to real life, hey? Yeah.
You gave Princess Zelda a voice.
I thank you for this. You guys, it is my immense pleasure, and I am so honored to be here with these guys in front of you today and doing this, because I feel like I've met an entire community of people through this experience. And that's actually been one of the best parts, is like traveling around and meeting this whole Zelda community of this 30-year franchise and somehow being able to like say hello and like have meaning in that conversation. It's so cool. It's so cool. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Cry. Hi.
Hi.
Don't be nervous. Your lips might turn blue. Sorry.
A little late for that one.
I love that lipstick. By the way.
If you had to ask the character a little bit more story today, which character would you have?
In Breath of the Wild.
Probably a Korok. I dance like the Koroks all the time. I have one on my couch with a little rattle in it that somebody gave me.
If I could voice any character, who could I voice?
Link.
Yeah, it's not a choice at all. Yeah, Link. Link, but who's to say that I'm not the voice of Link?
That would be so weird if you were my father and Link. That would be really weird, okay?
You a lot of puppets. I kind of feel like I would want to voice the Deku Tree.
Nice.
Or Sidon.
Everybody wants to be Sidon.
You got actually, we should do a We Love You side on before we go. Tell you guys. Anyway. My pleasure. Our pleasure.
Thank you.
Okay. Don't worry, guys. I got this. So,
You on my team.
Pika Pika, Pika Pee, Pikachu, Pika Pika.
You're on Pokemon too.
Pika Pika Pika.
Thanks, something else.
Oh wow, the tongue retracts.
And I'm now waiting for Pikachu to be like, my mother was a saint.
Yeah, pull that mic.
What's your favorite experiences playing the game?
Like that, or some of them can be pretty funny. Like favorite moment, like something in the game.
Yeah, so as far as you've gotten in the game, what has been your favorite experience while playing?
Hunting sandhill cranes when I get one, because they're really hard. They're really hard to get. Yeah.
In the air.
I like hunting a lot. All the time.
In the air.
My roommate is voice actor Eric Kimmerer. You might know him as Speed of Sound Sonic in One Punch Man. He was in Magi and Excel World and all sorts of great stuff. He's a really cool guy, but he's like #1 Zelda fan. I don't have a Switch yet, but he does, and he's already played through the game. I mean, he barreled through it because it was like that was his life. I mean, the man walks around the house in a Zelda robe, so he's got the Link robe. It looks like Link's, but it's a bathrobe. You can buy this somewhere. I don't know where he found it. I just look at him and shake my head. But I'd say the fun experience is watching him play. But I guess if you want to talk about a music experience, is the fact that he's beaten the game, but he still hasn't found all the Koroks. So it's just like. Did you find all the Koroks yet? Shut up, Bill. I'm a true Zelda fan and say find them all. Shut up, Bill. Gotta catch them all, Eric. Shut up,
Bill. Roasting apples and cutting down trees.
It's like camping forever.
Literally everything.
Unscrew the cap.
I really like shooting the bow.
It's already been unscrewed.
Sometimes I have issues with archery in video games, and I'm not always very good at it. But I'm really good with the bow in Zelda.
Yeah.
So do you do like the trick shot where you hit somebody, they crash into a boulder, rolls down and kills like 12 more people?
I'm not that
Okay, let's go back on.
Keep practicing.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. So, if you guys want to take selfies or anything like that with your guests, you can do that at the autograph session. They will also be doing paid photo ops. I believe that you buy those.
You buy them from the
photo op.
wherever that is.
I'll get that info for you guys. But yeah,
Wherever fines foods are sold.
there will be opportunities for those awesome personal moments during the autograph session. We do have 15 minutes left. We're going to go rolling with Steven Universe. Come on down.
All right, Steven, we only got a couple minutes, just the bits.
I'm just wondering, this is a little bit of an accusatory question.
Okay.
Do any of you feel any remorse for your repeat offenses of taking honest people's lives away?
See now, you say that we've taken months and months of people's lives away playing the game, but I say we've enriched it.
Yeah! Yeah! No regrets.
Yes, I would say in fact we've given you several lives to live. Is that a cop-out? Is that a cop-out answer?
That was awesome. That was awesome.
No, you all deserve it.
All deserve to live.
30 years of joy.
I have had a number of people tell me that they can't get my voice out of their head because they just continually hear Urbosa's fury is ready.
Yes.
Over and over and over again.
Yeah, I am still sorry about the blood moon though.
Thanks.
So yeah, just a very quick heads up, because we started a little late, we're going to run about 5-10 minutes longer just so we can get through everyone in the line. But yeah, so we have plenty of time, just giving you guys a quick heads up.
Pretty.
Hi.
If you could be from any universe, like where would you go? Like any game, any movie?
Any fictional universe?
Yeah.
Oh, you're opening that way up.
Well, okay, I'm going to answer for Elizabeth. If you could go to any fictional universe, Elizabeth would be in Hyrule, knocking down trees.
And baking apples.
This is the best camping trip ever!
Baking apples.
And now I'm going to go shoot things. Oh God, look out, she's got weaponry! It's like some sort of very weird Elizabeth deliverance. Okay, let's go.
The first thing that popped into my head is I have always been obsessed with the Rainbow Road level of Mario.
Yes!
And I would really like to go to that world.
Which one?
Any of them? All of them? I mean, I feel like, they're different countries, right? So it's like I feel like each iteration of Mario Kart, I mean, the Rainbow Road world, those would be like the different continents or anyway.
See, I don't know. I mean, that just sounds like getting really stoned and getting on the highway. And that doesn't end well. It doesn't end. It ultimately ends with you going off the Golden Gate Bridge going, wee.
So you're saying it's possible?
I think we're marked, man.
Somebody asked me about music the other day, and I think right now, and I felt like this yesterday too, so maybe this is becoming a pattern, but I do feel like I'd hang out at the Long Lawn Ranch. For a long time.
Nice.
And have like a margarita and like recline. Yeah. Long Lawn. Cheers.
Wait, are you not going to answer?
Well, everybody's just going to assume that the answer is that, I would go to Pokemon World. And I guess that would be pretty cool because, I'd want to catch a Chimchar and maybe hang with Pikachu for a little bit. But then, when you start to get to like things like, Gyarados and Hydreigon and stuff, it'd just be like, oh shit, they're going to eat us! I don't think I'd want to be in a world where giant things are just kind of like, hey buddy, no! I just want to be your friend! No!
That sounds terrifying.
And then heaven forbid you run into any like ghost or spirit types. That would just gonna take you off to the spirit world now.
So I think we're all very familiar with the fact that
all the characters in Legend of Zelda are very emotional. And this question is especially for Zelda herself. From Nintendo's perspective, as well as what was going through your head, what was the inspiration for that level of emotion?
Well, as an actor, I come to everything first from a script and a human perspective and an immediacy. So the way I prepped for that role was looking, because we didn't have the script that much in advance so much, but the lore and I would say in general, the relationship with her family, her father, and also her mother, and the fact that that is not, there's a lot of unfinished business in that. I think it's very, very relatable for any character, their emotional situation with their parents. And also the pressure of a kingdom and trying to, so much of this is relatable in real life. It's not always so relatable when you're looking into characters, but you always find certain commonalities, and I feel like with Zelda there are so many commonalities. Just the pressure that she feels to come into herself as she's turning into an adult, aged beyond her years, and a desire to not let people down and to be great and to try to extend herself out, extend her heart out, and also like find her inner power. I mean, there's so much there. There's so much there to use. So I definitely drew from that.
Thank you. Hello, hello. Hey.
I have a question for all of you guys. What's the funniest thing you guys have to do while recording? Is any game or any show?
The funniest thing we've had to do?
Oh yeah, right. I was telling the story yesterday about yelling at 3 a.m. on a really large movie set, like, I am a Smurf! Over and over again as Smurfette. That was great fun. I have so many fun moments. I love my job, and there are so many highlights. There are highlight moments with kind of every project that you do. I'd say being on film sets is also really fun. I have to think about that one though. Yeah, I don't know. Just being in the studio can be awesome. I'm gonna cop out. Go to yes.
There are children in the audience, aren't there? I think.
Yes. I got a few waves from children.
Sorry, I'm going to tell the same story that I told yesterday, guys who were at the panel yesterday. It's funniest / most embarrassing, because it was embarrassing in the moment, but now it makes for a pretty funny story. But I worked on a game that only came out on the PlayStation Vita called Trillion God of Destruction. I don't know if any of you have played this. So basically, you play kind of as like the demon lord of hell, and you have these 7 sub-demons that you can have on your team, and they represent the 7 deadly sins. They're all lady demons that are the 7 deadly sins. And I played Ashmedia, who was the incarnation of lust.
Well, thank God.
And she was really excited by violence. So all of my lines were me being really excited by the damage that I was doing to the enemies. And yeah, that was a very interesting session. I had to make some very interesting noises. And it was in front of like an all-male team of a director, sound engineer, and they were all like, running behind schedule and like encountering some like technical problems. So I was in the booth like doing things, and they were like all out there like with these super stern, like serious faces, like not like, laughing or like acknowledging the strangeness of what I was doing, which made it even stranger. And I found out that yesterday that Bill actually worked on the translation of that script. So thanks.
I was on the script adaptation team. I apologize.
He's blushing.
But I would say the weird thing for me is it was actually I wasn't sure if we were referring to specifically this game. I had an hour in Zelda. I had an hour session. It might have been 2 hours. I think it was just an hour. Where basically, when you walk around, so this is the first game that we've fully voice acted. Previously, if you played Twilight Princess or other games, when you walk over to people, they usually go, But even though we supplied full voice acting for cinematic sequences, there were still points when you first approach Old Man on the hill, and I had to do that for like an hour. It's like, okay, now you're a little sad, now you're bemused, now you're happy, now you're angry, now you're a little more angry, now you're really pissed off at Link because he's screwed up. And it was just all these different directions to basically go, and we just did that for like an hour, and I was like, yay, I'm working on the biggest game franchise in the world. What did you do today?
I just wanted to add a really quick thing to that because I just thought of my answer because I had a lot of time to think about it. I really like playing female warriors in general in my life, and that's my favorite thing to do. So that's all.
Hi.
If you could, if there were cinematic scenes where you could voice act in different Zelda games, which one would you like?
Sorry, say that again.
If there were voice acting in other Zelda games, which one would you like to voice act in?
Ooh, which game would you like to have voice acted?
Which game would you like us to voice act in?
Get those cards and letters ready, kids!
I think it is Majora's Mask because it's funny and also kind of horrifying.
Let's go back and redub the Zelda library. I think that should be on, right?
I think Zelda Universe is on that. If anybody follows Zelda Universe, I know that they're doing some pretty great dubs from what I see. Yeah. Unofficial, beautiful dubs.
Where's the Kickstarter? I'll buy 20. They dub the CDI games.
Yes, there you go. If I could do anything, I would redub the King in the CDI game, and we'd sell 5 copies.
That would be a hot item if you did that. That'd be really interesting. I'm just gonna go with Ocarina of Time.
This might be a cop-out, but I literally, would not rather dub any character over Urbosa. Like, she is my favorite ever, so.
She's my favorite too, it's okay.
You know my answer. I want to redub the whole damn series. And I'm greedy, okay?
This is our final question. Make it a good one. No pressure, but it better be the best question that
It will.
No pressure.
Under pressure.
My question is for all of you. If you could have a favorite champion in Breath of the Wild besides your character, who would it be? And also descendants count.
Sorry?
And also descendants count.
Descendants count.
You could have a favorite champion in Breath of the Wild. If you could voice or just be. Favorite. Who is your favorite? Oh, who's your favorite champion?
Aside from that.
Absolutely. Urbosa. I feel that way. Yeah, that's just a no-brainer for me. Yeah.
Elizabeth, you can't pick Urbosa. She said you can pick your favorite champion except for the ones that you voiced, but you're the only one who voiced the champion, so you've got the pressure. We can just say her, but now you have to think of something.
Well, I haven't gotten to meet any of them in game yet, is the problem. So,
Nifa! Sidon!
Yeah. I never thought I'd find an amphibious creature sexy.
we are learning these things together.
All right, so I really love you, Elizabeth. I really do, and we've had so much of a history together since I met her yesterday. When we worked on the game, we worked one at a time. So I actually ran into Patricia a lot because she would have sessions after me, or I would have sessions after her. So we got to know each other in the recording process, but I had not gotten the chance to meet Elizabeth until just yesterday when we showed up at the con. But as much as I love you and as much of a history as we have, my buddy Joe Hernandez plays Daruk, and also who doesn't love a Goron. So I really want like them to make some sort of a DLC side quest where the King and Daruk just go like on a road movie type. That's it.
That's the whole life.
It's just.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Everyone, please give a huge round of applause. One second.
Guys, if you don't mind, we would love to send a video to Sidon himself. If you guys would mind helping us out with this. If we can do like a 1, 2, 3, we believe in you Sidon with like as much power and like love ever. That would be
With the might of a Bosa's fury.
Right. This is great.
With the heart of a Hyrule warrior's heart.
One, 2, 3.
We believe in you, Sidon!
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. Round of applause for Patrica Summerland, Elizabeth Maxwell, and Bill Rogers. Thank you so much.